this video, we're going to be talking about the HLOOKUP function in Excel, which is simply another variant of the lookup functions in Excel. We've mentioned previously that the VLOOKUP function looks up for values vertically, and the HLOOKUP is basically the opposite. It looks up for values horizontally. So I have the same data set as the one that I have had in the VLOOKUP video. However, this time it has been reshaped. So for instance, the columns now are basically the game names, and the first cell of each and every column is basically the sales segregated by region. So let's see how we can use the HLOOKUP function to achieve the same objective, which is finding the NA sales of the 3 games that I do have in my small table. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to give a name to my table. So first I will highlight my table just like that and give it a name, and let's say for instance I'm going to be calling it game. Now let's see how we can use the HLOOKUP function to look up for the NA sales of the 3 games that I do have here in my dataset. I'm going to be writing my function, which is as follows: $HLOOKUP. As you can see, the HLOOKUP function takes 4 parameters, which are exactly the same as the VLOOKUP function. Now, the first parameter is the lookup value, which is simply the reference value, which is the first game in my list. I will click on comma to go to the second parameter, which is the table array or the table range. I don't need to highlight my table anymore because I have already given it a name. I will only call the name, and as you can see, the whole table is being selected. The third parameter is basically the only difference compared to the VLOOKUP. As you can see, it says row index number and not column index number. And this is because the HLOOKUP function looks up for values horizontally and not vertically. Therefore, it's going to be looking up for values based on rows. So rows are being indexed from top to bottom in order. So the first row that starts with the cell game, this is row number 1, and row number 2 is the NA sales, and so on. So we're basically looking up for values for the NA sales of the first game. So the row index number is going to be row number 2. I'll click on comma to go to the last parameter, which is basically the true or false, 0 or 1. I want to have an exact match, so I will type down 0 and close my parentheses. Now I will click enter. As you can see, it did in fact find the value of the NA sales for the Pokemon Red / Pokemon Blue game. Now I will basically apply my function to the last 2 games, and this is simply how you can use the HLOOKUP function in Excel.